The sniper's breath fogs in the freezing air. Through his scope, he watches a German soldier light a cigarette 300 meters away. The flame flickers once, twice, then goes dark forever. October 15th, 1942. Stalingrad is dying. Concrete dust swirls through skeletal buildings. Machine gun fire echoes from invisible positions. In the ruins of what was once the Soviet Union's industrial heart, two armies are about to tear each other apart in the most brutal urban warfare the world has ever seen. A German radio operator crouches behind a collapsed wall, desperately trying to reach his command post. We need reinforcements. The Russians? They're everywhere. The transmission cuts to static. A grenade explodes 20 meters away. Shrapnel tears through the air. In a basement across the street, Soviet defenders count their last bullets. 17 rounds between 4 men. Outside, German boots pound on concrete. Getting closer, always closer. This is the story of 200 days that changed everything. The story of a city that refused to die, an army that refused to retreat, and a battle that turned the tide of the Second World War. June 28, 1942. The German war machine rolls east across the steppe. Operation Blue, Hitler's summer offensive, splits in 2 directions like a massive steel fork. One thrust drives toward the oil fields of the Caucasus. The other, led by General Friedrich Paulus and his 6th Army, races toward a city that bears Stalin's name, Stalingrad. The Wehrmacht storms across the Don River. Dust clouds rise behind endless columns of tanks, half-tracks, and marching infantry. The Luftwaffe's Stukas scream overhead, their sirens wailing death from above. In just weeks, they've advanced 400 miles. But Hitler's obsession with Stalingrad runs deeper than strategy. This isn't just about controlling the Volga River or cutting Soviet supply lines. This is personal. A city named after his greatest enemy. A symbol that must be crushed. In the Kremlin, Stalin paces his office at 2 a.m. Maps cover every surface. Red pins mark defensive positions. Black pins mark disasters. The German advance seems unstoppable. But Stalin has a plan. A brutal, desperate plan that will cost hundreds of thousands of lives. He picks up the phone. Comrade Chukov? I have a job for you. General Vasily Chukov, commander of the 62nd Army, listens as Stalin explains his mission. Hold Stalingrad, at any cost, for as long as it takes. And if we can't hold it, Comrade Stalin, then you die in it. The call ends. Outside Moscow, the summer sun rises over a nation preparing for its greatest test. July 1942, Stalingrad transforms. Factories that once built tractors now produce T-34 tanks. Women who once worked in shops now dig anti-tank trenches. Children who once played in parks now carry ammunition to the front lines. The city stretches 30 miles along the Volga River, a sprawling industrial complex of steel mills, grain elevators, and residential districts. Each building becomes a fortress, each street a killing ground. In the Stalingrad tractor factory, workers weld armor plates onto tank hulls even as German artillery pounds the outskirts. The rhythm is hypnotic: hammer, weld, but beneath the industrial symphony, everyone hears it. The growing rumble of approaching war. Soviet reinforcements pour across the Volga under cover of darkness. The 13th Guards Division, the 95th Rifle Division, battle-hardened veterans mixed with teenage conscripts who've never fired a rifle. They march through the city streets, their boots echoing off concrete walls that will soon become their tombs. But it's not just soldiers preparing for war. In apartments across the city, families gather around dinner tables for what they don't know will be their last meal together. A father teaches his son to load a Mosin-Nagant rifle. A mother shows her daughter how to bandage wounds. A grandmother burns family photographs. Better to destroy them than let the fascists find them. The German advance continues. 50 miles away, 30 miles, 20 miles. At the city's edge, Soviet engineers destroy everything of value. Bridges explode into the Volga. Fuel depots burn. Grain silos collapse. If the Germans want Stalingrad, they'll inherit nothing but ruins. But even ruins can be defended. And in the cellars and basements of the city, 400,000 civilians prepare to learn how. August 23, 1942, 6:18 p.m. The first Stuka formation appears over the Volga River like a black cloud. Air raid sirens wail across Stalingrad, but it's too late. The planes dive, their engines screaming. Bombs whistle down on the city center. The fuel depot explodes first. A mushroom cloud of orange fire climbs into the sky, visible from 50 miles away. Then the grain elevator. Then the residential blocks. Within hours, 40,000 civilians are dead. Stalingrad burns. But in the smoke and rubble, something unexpected happens. As German infantry advances into the ruined streets, they don't find surrender flags. They find muzzle flashes from basement windows, from collapsed buildings, from sewers. The 62nd Soviet Army, commanded by General Vasily Chukov, has turned every pile of rubble into a fortress, every building into a killing field. This is not a retreat. Chukov tells his officers in a basement command post, "This is a defense. We hold every floor, every room, every staircase. Make them pay for every step." The Germans expected to march through another conquered city. Instead, they're about to fight for every room, every staircase, every floor. The battle for Stalingrad isn't just beginning. It's about to become the most savage urban warfare in human history. German Lieutenant Hans Weber leads his squad through the ruins of a school. Children's drawings still hang on the walls. Flowers, houses, smiling families. Now machine gun nests occupy the classrooms. Weber's men advance room by room, grenade by grenade. In the third-floor mathematics classroom, Soviet defenders have barricaded themselves behind overturned desks. The blackboard still shows yesterday's lesson. 2 + 2 is equal to 4. But today's lesson is different. Today, Soviet Junior Lieutenant Mikhail Petrov teaches his men that sometimes the only equation that matters is life or death. The first German appears in the doorway. Petrov's rifle cracks. The German drops. But there are more. Always more. September 13th. The assault on the city center begins. German shock troops push through the railway station. They take it, lose it, take it again. The building changes hands 4 times in a single day. Bodies pile up in the waiting rooms where families once said goodbye. The fighting is unlike anything in military history. No grand tank battles across open fields. No neat front lines marked on maps. Just brutal, intimate killing in the ruins of civilization. In the basement of a department store, German machine gun team sets up position. Through the smoke, they watch Soviet soldiers sprint between bomb craters. The gunner squeezes the trigger. The muzzle flash illuminates faces twisted with determination and terror. Across the street, in what remains of a factory, Soviet defender Pavel Zaitsev peers through his rifle scope. He's already killed 11 Germans today. His hands shake from exhaustion, but his aim is steady. He exhales, squeezes. The German machine gun goes silent. The radio crackles in the German command post. "Sir, we need reinforcements. The Russians, they're not retreating. They're dying in place." But then comes the sound that changes everything. The deep rumble of Soviet tanks crossing the Volga at night. Stalin is pouring reinforcements into the city. The Germans have walked into a meat grinder, and someone just turned it on. In the ruins of the Red October steel plant, a different kind of battle unfolds. Here, among the twisted metal and shattered concrete, death comes one bullet at a time. Vasily Zaitsev moves through the shadows like a ghost. A shepherd from the Urals turned sniper, he's already killed 40 German soldiers in just 2 weeks. But today, he's hunting bigger game. Major Erwin Koenig, sent from the Berlin sniper school specifically to kill Zaitsev, positions himself in the ruins of a chemical plant. Through his scope, he searches for the Soviet sniper who's become a legend among the defenders. For 3 days, they play a deadly game of cat and mouse among the blast furnaces. Every shadow could hide death. Every movement could be the last. Koenig spots a glint of metal in a factory window. He takes careful aim, fires. The bullet shatters concrete inches from Zaitsev's head. Now it's personal. Zaitsev doesn't just hunt Koenig, he studies him. The German favors high positions. He shoots left-handed. He's patient but not reckless. Every detail matters when a single mistake means death. On the fourth day, Zaitsev sees his chance. Koenig has chosen a sniper's nest in a bombed-out apartment building. But the morning sun will reflect off his scope at exactly 9:27 a.m. Zaitsev waits, watches. At 9:27, a flash of light betrays the German position. One shot, Koenig's war is over. But the sniper's duel is just a small part of a larger nightmare. In the streets below, the real battle continues. October 14th, the bloodiest day. At dawn, the German 6th Army launches its final assault. Every available soldier, tank, and aircraft concentrates on a single objective, the Stalingrad tractor factory. If they can take it, they can split the Soviet defense in half. The ground shakes as 300 German tanks roll forward. Stukas dive through their own flak to hit Soviet positions. Artillery pounds the factory complex until the building itself seems to melt. Inside the factory, Soviet workers-turned soldiers grip their rifles with oil-stained hands. They've been building tanks here for months. Now they're fighting among the assembly lines where those tanks were born. Ivan Fedorov, a 19-year-old lathe operator, has never fired a rifle in anger. But when German infantry storms through the factory gates, he discovers what he's willing to die for. He and 3 other workers drag a heavy machine gun to the main assembly line. The Germans advance in perfect formation, their boots echoing through the vast factory floor. Fedorov's finger finds the trigger. The machine gun chatters. Germans fall. More Germans advance. The gun chatters again. A German Panzer IV crashes through the factory wall. Its main gun swivels toward Fedorov's position. But before it can fire, a Molotov cocktail arcs through the air. The tank becomes a crematorium. The factory changes hands 6 times. German soldiers advance room by room, floor by floor. But every room costs blood. Every floor costs lives. By evening, the Germans hold 90% of the city. General Paulus sends a confident message to Berlin. Stalingrad will fall within 48 hours. He's wrong. Dead wrong. In the basement of the grain elevator, the last Soviet defenders prepare for their final stand. 18 men, 17 grenades, 1 heavy machine gun with 200 rounds. They've held this position for 3 days against overwhelming odds. The elevator itself is a blackened shell, gutted by fire and shrapnel. But from its ruins, they can see the entire southern approach to the city. Sergeant Andrei Kozyenov checks his men's ammunition. Most have fewer than 10 bullets left. But they're not talking about surrender. They're talking about making the Germans pay. Comrades, Kozyenov says, we are not heroes. We are not supermen. We are just Soviet soldiers doing our duty. But today, our duty is to hold this position until the last man falls. The German assault begins at dawn. Tanks, infantry, artillery, everything they have left. The grain elevator shudders under the bombardment. Concrete dust fills the air. But the machine gun keeps firing. One by one, the defenders fall. Kozyenov takes shrapnel in the chest but keeps fighting. His loader collapses from blood loss. A grenade explodes in the next room. By afternoon, only 4 men remain. By evening, only 1. Kozyenov, alone with his machine gun, continues firing until the ammunition runs out. When German soldiers finally storm the elevator, they find only silence. And a message scrawled on the wall in blood. We died fighting. Remember us. They will. November 19th, 1942.
7:20 Uhr morgens.
For 100 miles northwest of Stalingrad, Soviet artillery erupts along the Don River. Operation Uranus has begun. But this isn't another attack on the city. This is something else entirely. The barrage falls on Romanian positions guarding the German flank. The 3rd Romanian Army disintegrates under the hammer blow. Through the gap, Soviet tank armies pour like a flood. In Moscow, Stalin watches the operation unfold from his war room. For months, while the world focused on the street fighting in Stalingrad, the Red Army has been preparing this moment. fresh divisions from Siberia, new tanks from relocated factories, a massive deception that convinced the Germans they were facing a defeated enemy. But Stalin knows the truth. The defenders of Stalingrad weren't just buying time, they were bait. And now the trap is ready to spring. Marshal Zhukov coordinates the attack from his forward command post. The northern pincer, led by General Rokossovsky, smashes through Hungarian defenses. The southern pincer, under General Yermenko, rolls over Italian positions like a steamroller. The plan is simple and devastating. Encircle the German 6th Army. Cut them off from supplies, reinforcements, and escape routes. Turn the hunters into the hunted. In Stalingrad, German soldiers hear the distant thunder. They're told it's nothing, just another Soviet attack that will be repelled. But General Paulus knows better. He studied the maps. He knows what's coming. 24 hours later, the trap snaps shut. Two Soviet spearheads meet near the town of Kalik. The German 6th Army, 270,000 men, is surrounded, cut off, trapped in what will become known as the cauldron. Hitler's response comes by radio from his wolf's lair in East Prussia. The army will hold its positions.
No breakout. No retreat.
Fight to the last man. But inside the cauldron, reality is different. German soldiers are already beginning to starve. The promised airlift struggles to deliver even basic supplies. The Luftwaffe loses planes faster than they can be replaced. Colonel Wilhelm Adam, Paulus's adjutant, calculates the numbers. The 6th Army needs 700 tons of supplies daily to maintain combat effectiveness. The airlift delivers 94 tons on its best day. Snow begins to fall. The temperature drops to minus 30 degrees Celsius. German soldiers, equipped for summer warfare, start to freeze. In a bombed-out factory on the city's edge, Private Klaus Muller writes his last letter home. Dear Mother, I do not think I will see Germany again. The Russians have surrounded us. We have no food, no fuel, no hope. But we will fight. We are German soldiers. We know our duty. The letter will never be sent. By morning, Muller is dead, killed by a Soviet sniper as he searched for firewood. The hunters have become the hunted. December 12, 1942. Field Marshal Erich von Manstein launches Operation Winterstorm, Germany's last attempt to break the Soviet encirclement. The 4th Panzer Army, reinforced with elite units from across the Eastern Front, drives northeast toward Stalingrad. If they can reach the cauldron, they can extract the 6th Army. If they fail, 270,000 German soldiers will die in the ruins of Stalin's city. The advance begins promisingly. German tanks punch through Soviet defensive lines. Panthers and Tigers lead the assault, their guns blazing. In 3 days, they advance 30 miles. But the Soviets are ready. Every village becomes a fortress, every hill a killing ground. The Germans advance, but each mile costs blood and time they don't have. In the cauldron, Paulus receives coded messages from Manstein. Hold position. Relief coming. Prepare for breakout. But Hitler's orders are clear. No breakout. The 6th Army must hold Stalingrad, even if it means their destruction. The relief force grinds to a halt just 35 miles from the city. So close the trapped soldiers can see flares on the horizon. So close they can hear the distant sound of tank battles. But close isn't enough. On December 24th, Christmas Eve, the Soviets launch a massive counterattack. The relief force crumbles. Manstein's panzers retreat across the steppe, leaving the 6th Army to its fate. Inside the cauldron, German soldiers listen to the sound of battle fade into the distance. They know what it means. They're alone. January 1943. The 6th Army is dying. Of the 270,000 men trapped in the cauldron, only 150,000 remain alive. Their skeletons in uniform, burning furniture to stay warm, eating leather to survive. Frostbite claims more casualties than Soviet bullets. In a basement hospital, Dr. Heinrich Hock operates without anesthetics. He's amputated 200 frostbitten limbs in the past week. The screams echo through the ruins like a symphony of despair. We're not soldiers anymore, he tells his nurse. We're survivors. And soon, we won't even be that. The airlift continues, but it's a mockery. Planes deliver summer uniforms to freezing soldiers, cigarettes to starving men, medals to troops who can barely hold their rifles. Soviet forces tighten the noose. They don't attack in massive waves anymore. They don't need to. Time and winter are their allies. Every day, the German perimeter shrinks. Every night, more soldiers die. In the ruins of the Stalingrad University, Major Hans-Heinrich Spiess counts his remaining men. His battalion started with 800 soldiers. Now he has 23. They share 6 rifles and a handful of ammunition. "What are your orders, sir?" his sergeant asks. Spiess stares at the frozen corpses of his men. "Survive another day. That's all we can do." But survival is becoming impossible. The Soviets sense the end. They begin their final offensive. January 31st, 1943.
6 Uhr morgens.
In the basement of the Univermag department store, Field Marshal Friedrich Paulus stares at the radio. Hitler has just promoted him to Field Marshal, the first in German history to be captured alive. The message is clear. No German Field Marshal has ever surrendered. But outside, his army is dying. Of the 270,000 men trapped in the cauldron, only 91,000 remain alive. Their skeletons in uniform, burning furniture to stay warm, eating leather to survive. Soviet tanks roll through the streets unopposed. The few German defenders left fire their last bullets, then raise their hands. The great German Sixth Army, victors of France, conquerors of Poland, surrenders in a basement. Paulus removes his knight's cross, sets down his pistol. At 6:15 a.m., he walks out with his hands raised. "I surrender the Sixth Army," he says to the Soviet officer waiting outside. The silence is deafening. For the first time in 200 days, no gunfire echoes through Stalingrad's ruins. Soviet soldiers emerge from basements and sewers like ghosts. They've held. They've won. But the cost is staggering. 2 million casualties. An entire generation of young men erased from the earth. The city itself is gone, 99% destroyed, unrecognizable. In Germany, the myth of invincibility dies with the Sixth Army. Church bells ring across the Reich, not in celebration, but in mourning. The Wehrmacht will never again launch a major offensive on the Eastern Front. For the Soviet Union, Stalingrad becomes a symbol of resilience. Proof that the Red Army can not only defend but destroy. From this moment forward, they will push west, through Ukraine, through Poland, all the way to Berlin. The tide of war has turned, not in the fields of France or the deserts of Africa, but in the ruins of a city that refused to die. Stalingrad stands as testament to a simple truth. In war, there are no easy victories. Only the will to endure, to fight, to sacrifice everything for a cause greater than oneself. The battle is over. The war continues. And the road to Berlin starts here, in the rubble of Stalingrad, where 2 armies learned that sometimes the only way to win is to refuse to lose. You just watched 270,000 German soldiers disappear into the ruins of Stalingrad. But here's what's terrifying. This wasn't the bloodiest battle of World War II. That title belongs to a battle so savage, so massive, that it makes Stalingrad look like a skirmish. A battle where 1.7 million men fought in a space smaller than New York City, where entire armies vanished in 72 hours. Subscribe right now because the next video reveals the battle that ended the war, and it's more insane than anything you've seen today. Hit that notification bell. Because once you see what the Red Army did next, you'll understand why the Germans called it the Gates of Hell.